Hi everyone, welcome back. I'm going to be doing a makeup trial on myself today. I need to practice my maid of honor makeup for my friend's wedding that's coming up really quickly here. And this is going to really help me pack ahead of time because the wedding's taking place in Mexico. And I want to film a bridal makeup video as well. I'll show you what I am going to be doing on her face. We've been practicing the last month or so every weekend and it's looking beautiful. So I want to share that with you as well. But let's start with the bridesmaid / maid of honor makeup look today. I prepped my skin ahead of time. I prepped it with just the Charlotte Tilbury Magic Cream and I let that sink in while I was doing my hair today. So my first makeup step of the day will be the E.L.F Power Grip Primer. This stuff goes without saying, it's just the glue to your base. And I took a more generous amount today. I took 4 pumps just so that I'm extra secured. And I'm trying to use a lot of the same products that she'll be wearing that day just so that I don't have to bring so many bags. So thankfully this foundation works really well on both of us. This is the Makeup Forever HD Skin and I'll be using the shade 2N22 today. Let's see if it's an actual match though. Yeah, I'm applying my foundation with the Refer LC03 brush today. And make sure to get that foundation and everything into the hairline so it doesn't look like a mask, as well as like fade it down the neck on the ears as well. And to save space in my makeup kit, I put some of these foundations and creams in these little pots. So the Charlotte Tilbury one, 2 shades in the HD foundation and 1 Shiseido foundation. So cute, and gives me room to pack other fun things. I always like to go over my foundation with a damp beauty sponge just to remove any excess and just for an extra smooth finish. This just always makes for the most flawless look, I think. I'm going to use a little bit of contour today. This is the Milk Makeup Sculpt Stick in the shade Toasted. So feel up your cheek a little bit and you'll feel that bone. You'll want to put this right on the bone or just even a little bit higher. I like to draw a line that's like 1.5 inches, like so. I'm not bringing it up on my forehead because this isn't really like a shaded spot. And I'm taking a small brush. This is an LC02, also from Refer. And I'm just going to do little patting motions, kind of keeping it in that area. I'm going to pat it until it's like pretty blended there. And then I'll start doing little circular motions because you don't want it to look like a super straight line. That's when it can be kind of odd to the human eye. If it's a little bit rounded, it looks more natural. And instead of dragging and patting that product downwards, I like to lift up. This is going to give more of a lifted cheek effect. And when you're doing event makeup, you always have to go a little bit more heavy-handed than you're used to seeing on yourself because it'll photograph better and people will be able to see you better in the crowd at the altar. I almost said on the stage, at the altar. So now I'm taking my Makeup by Mario Sculpt Stick in the shade Light Medium, and this on me is kind of a more bronzing color. And I'm just going to tap over where I applied that contour. I'm not drawing a line here because I don't want to add too much product for me to work with, but I'm being a little bit more generous on my forehead because I do want more of a bronze look since this wedding is going to be taking place in Mexico. So instead of a more precise brush like I did with contour, I'm taking this MAC 143S brush. It's like a nice denser fan brush, and I'm just going to do the same thing, and I'm blending the bronzer in a circular motion and I'm bringing it upwards too for that more sun-kissed effect. And I'm kind of connecting it on my temple. And it's important to get in your hairline at this step too. So this is our starting point. It doesn't look like too much, but we're just laying down the base with creams. Now for blush. So my dress that I'm going to be wearing is like super vibrant pink. I'll put a little photo of it here. It's so stunning. I cannot wait to wear it. So I think I need to carry up some of those tones in my face, of course. So I've pulled these 2 Rare Beauty blushes. I think that this would be really nice. And then I'm later going to layer this Nabla one to see today. I don't know if it's going to be too pink, but I don't think so paired with the dress. We'll see. That's why I'm doing this. So in the Rare Beauty blushes, I have the shades Happy and Thriving. So these are those two shades here, Happy and Thriving. And then I'll swatch the Nabla one underneath. I'll see which one works better tonally. I think this one works better, but I feel like that's way too bright. I'm thinking if I layer this Nabla one over this one, it'll be like the perfect amount. I think so. I think that's it. Because I think that's too neon. Let's see what happens if I add the Nabla over this. Yeah. Too much. That's too much. I decided on Happy. And I'm taking this Rare Beauty blush brush to apply. And because I'm going for more of a lifted look, I recently have been placing my blush kind of in the center of my face for a more youthful appearance. Today I'm going for a lifted, more snatched vibe. So I'm placing it where I would typically place highlight. And this is a wonderful formula. It's a cream powder mix, so it just always blends in. Very similar to the MAC Glow Play blushes, if you're more familiar with that. And I always apply a bit of blush on my nose, so I'm going to stay true to myself there. That's optional, you don't have to. But I'm going to keep it around that pigmentation level for right now. It's concealer time. I'll be using my Shiseido Self-Refreshing Concealer in the shade 203 Light. And this is really nice and powerful, so I just need the tiniest amount. I just do 2 little dots on either side of my eye. And I'm using my Kosas setting spray. And I'm taking my Kosas sponge to blend this out. And I waited to do concealer until now after all of my cream steps were done, just in case if I went too crazy with the blush. It's super easy just to take the concealer down a bit to control it. Now that I'm done all of my cream steps, I'm going to transition into powders. I'm going to take my mini Givenchy Original setting powder, and I'll be placing this underneath of my eye only for the brightening effects. The new pressed one is really good. I just found that the loose original version worked better on Danny, and it's a nice little mini size, so perfect for travel. And I am bringing this down just a little bit. My usual next step is going in with another bigger powder puff, but I'm actually using a brush and the Charlotte Tilbury Airbrush Flawless Finish setting powder in the shade 1, just for a lighter effect. I do want to have more of a glow, and in case if I get sweaty or something, I don't want my makeup to get cakey. But I'm just focusing the most in the center, and then I'm just going to do like the lightest little layer of whatever's left on my brush, setting over everything. So now it's time to kind of amp up the contrast of basically everything right now. I'm taking a powder highlight. This is the Fenty Beauty Demi Glow Light Diffusing Highlighter in the shade Pretty Pearls 01. I'm taking the smallest amount of this just on my cheekbones and the high points. I'm doing this now because when I go over with my powder brush, I kind of want this to look like it's coming within the blush. Oh my gosh, I guess my brain just does not feel like talking today, but it's not an option. It's now time to amp up the bronze. I'm using my Surratt bronzer in the shade Soleil Dew to do that. Okay, I'm liking this so far. I don't think the blush is too pink, but we'll see after this next step. I'm now grabbing Nabla Close-Up Blush in the shade Lucky Rose. This is a What's Up Beauty R204 brush, and it's a very loose, like fluffy brush, so it's not going to pick up too much, and hopefully. And then I'm going to just fluff this over. I'm happy with this so far. I'm now going to use a little bit of setting spray, and I like to do this before my eyes and my brows because sometimes setting sprays can mess with the eyeshadow primer as well as eyeshadows, and it can cause them to crease. So I always just prevent all of that by just spraying this before I do any of that. And I'm using my Charlotte Tilbury Airbrush Flawless Setting Spray. And I'll let that kind of sink in for a few moments. I just let all of those products kind of melt together, and then I'll take my sponge and I'll gently, without like any pressure, tap over the cheek, because sometimes I can like lift any hairs, and this way I'll sink that setting spray deeper. So I'm going to now prime my lids using my Fenty Beauty eye primer. This is the best stuff. People with oily lids, or if you really need your eyeshadow to stick, it's one of the waxiest. I know some people get thrown off by that. You may not like the texture. I kind of smush this into my eyelid until I feel it starting to dry and become really tacky. When I use this primer, I always do this. I take my setting powder with a fluffy brush and I set brow to crease. Because this is very sticky, adding this slip layer will just really help the blending process of your eyeshadow. Now, do whatever you need to do for your brows. I have a very simple brow routine. I just kind of fill in the sparse areas. I'm kind of letting my brows grow until it's time for me to go. So I do have quite a few hairs I need to like pluck too, but I'm just gonna leave that until the last minute so I don't have to do it again. And I'm using my Kosas Brow Pop in medium brown to fill in the sparse areas. Then I just comb it through. Then I switch over to the brow gel in medium brown as well. There's like a few little shiny areas or still some sparse areas. I take my Rare Beauty brow powder to kind of fill in and mattify those areas. This is the palette I'll be traveling with. These tones looked amazing on her. I love this one too. It's the Patrick Ta Major Dimensions 3 palette. This top row here has such nice, really warm, bronzy colors. So I'll be focusing mostly on that row today. I'm going to start by taking the cream brown here with this angled brush. I'm going to start by sketching out a liner, but I'm not going to do my like regular kind of flat liner. I'm going to like mostly focus it on my upper lid. I'm still going to follow the angle of my lower lash line here, but I'm not going to connect it as much as I usually would. So now that I have that angle down, I'm going to fill it first right at the outer corner just to ensure it doesn't get too thick. And I'm just going to fade that along my lash line until it just like fades off naturally. So there's my liner. So I'm going to put away the cream for now. I'm going to take a nice clean fluffy brush and I'm kind of just going to go with the flow of the palette. I'm going to start with this transition shade and deepen up as I go. And I might introduce a little bit of this neutral shade in there. So I'm going to throw this in my crease really high. And then I'm also going to kind of flick the rest of the product outwards just to start getting that lifted vibe. Wiping that little brush off, this is a Smith 232. I'm taking the shade right next to that one to deepen up the crease a bit. I'll stop there. I don't want to go too crazy with the eyes. I want them to be like nice and soft and open. Taking that same shade on a Rephr 13 brush, I'm going to start patting just to start closing this up and adding extra depth on the outer corner. Wiping that brush again, skipping to the next deepest shade. And I'll do the exact same thing here. Now I'm taking the deepest shadow of that row, just going to deepen that up even more. Now with that angled brush I created this liner with, I'm taking that dark neutral brown and I'm going to kind of bring this back to the forefront. Ever so slightly flicking a touch of that pigment outwards just so that it like fades into nothing. And then I'm going for like a sharp bottom here, but kind of a softer top edge. So I'm just going to gently and slowly bring my brush upwards like that. Now, I don't think I'm going to use any shimmer. I'm going to take the lightest shade of the top row here, this really nice creamy shade. And I'm going to use this to brighten up my lid. I'll leave her to shimmer. I think I'm just gonna do a matte eye for me that day. And then I'll wipe that brush off, take the white on the bottom row, this one right here, with that same brush. And I'm just going to take some of the light shade right in the inner corner And like I'm really going to blend this out so it doesn't look so stark and placed. So now I have to work on my lower lash line. I'm going to take a small brush, a nice Huda Beauty eye smudge brush, and I'm going to take this shade right here, and I'm going to just rub this one all along my eye, kind of as close as I can to my lash line. I don't want it to go too low. Then I'll take this Rephr 13 brush once again with the shade right next to it. And this one I'll kind of blow out just a little bit more, not too much. Now with this neutral dark brown, I'm just going to super hug this right on my lower lash line right here to open up the eye. Adding mascara is always the magic step, and today I'll be using my Kill Lash Super Proof Mascara in Sleek Volume from Clio. And I think day of, I'll put on a few falsies, but I think this is good to see the vision today. So now for lips, I guess. That's the only thing that's left. Maybe I'll do this before lips. The One Size setting spray. This is sealant. Last time I put that on, it left little white balls all over my face and I didn't notice, but I don't see them. But something I forgot in my last video is I also take my sponge and I do the exact same thing, just in case. I'm going to just put a little bit more setting powder, the Charlotte Tilbury Airbrush Flawless, just in the center. Kind of as a finishing powder. This is just going to make everything look even more airbrushed and flawless. For lip liner, I think the Makeup Forever Artist Color Pencil Extreme in Wherever Walnut will be really good. I pulled this pink lipstick from MAC. It's the shade Maraschino Much. It's like very vibrant, like crazy, but I thought it'd be nice just to add a little bit of a pink hue. So I'm just going to take just a touch from my swatch here, just to get that color on here. And then perhaps this gloss, it's the Say Glossy Bounce in the shade Disco. I really like these glosses. Ren always knows when it's the end of a video. He sounds so extra sad today. What the heck? He's like, who's you talking to, Mom? Talk to me. And here is my makeup look. I really like it. Now that I have the clips off, I think the red little clips were throwing me off, but I really like it. I think this might be it. But I think with a really pink dress, this will look awesome. Like my dress is almost like this color. I know this is not helpful at all. I know many of you are wanting a little Lani update. She's doing amazing. She's healing amazing. She's so ready to be a kitty once again. You're so cutie. But that's going to wrap things up on my end. I really hope you enjoyed today's video and found it helpful. If you did, make sure to give it a thumbs up. I'll have everything I used listed and linked in the description box down below, so feel free to check that out. And I'll see you in my next video. Bye!